The wind howled like a hungry wolf outside, clawing at the dilapidated structure, trying to claw its way inside. Inside, Arjun was setting up his recorder. It was old, nearly 100 years old, but it still worked, miraculously. The previous night's recording played back perfectly, and so far, nothing had touched or moved in the house overnight. But that was about to change. First, the floorboards above him groaned like they were alive. Then the door creaked open as if it had lungs. Dust and cobwebs coated the narrow hall. The walls were scratched with words in a language he didn't know, but every scratch seemed fresh, like made hours ago. The flashlight slipped from Arjun's hand, clattering to the floor, sending a long, thin beam of light skittering across the floor, dancing on the walls, finding shapes in the darkness. Arjun set his flashlight down and started filming. "This house belonged to a British officer," he explained to his recorder. "Locals say he murdered the villagers during famine and his spirit remains here. I'll spend the night to test the legend." The staircase groaned under his weight, and on the landing, he turned, suddenly uneasy, and hurried on to the next floor. Up here, there were fewer rooms, only 3, each with a window boarded from the outside. Moonlight filtered through one of the windows, illuminating a feather on the floor. It was large, gray, and speckled, like an owl's feather. But owls don't live in houses. Or do they? He found a bedroom with a broken bed and a full-length mirror hanging on the wall. In the corner was a small table with a candle and a lighter. A half-empty bottle of what might have been holy water sat on top. He knew exactly what he had to do. Arjun lit the candle and stared into the mirror, his face pale and drawn in the flickering candlelight. For a moment, nothing happened. Then he saw a flash of movement in the corner of his eye. He turned his head slowly, but the room was empty. He turned back to the mirror. "Hello?" he whispered, his voice trembling slightly. "Is anyone there?" The candle sputtered and went out, plunging the room into darkness. Heart pounding, he fumbled for his flashlight, its reassuring beam cutting through the blackness. He shone it on the mirror. The beam caught something. Standing behind him, a woman in white. Her head was bent so he couldn't see her face, but he could see the darkness where her head was, like a shadow within a shadow. She was tall and thin, like a starved ghost. She reached out a hand, long fingers spidery in the light. He spun around. Nothing. Just the broken bed and the wardrobe at the corner of the room, the moonlight making the dust motes dance in the air. Had she stepped out of the mirror? Was she real? Taking a deep breath, he forced himself to look back, at the mirror. There she was again, her hand outstretched. This time he saw her face. Her eyes were wide and blank, her mouth open in a silent scream. And then she stepped out of the mirror. Arjun screamed and stumbled back, knocking over the table. The bottle of holy water rolled away, stopping at the foot of the bed. The ghost glided towards him, her white dress brushing the floor. Her eyes locked onto his, boring a hole through him. Fear turned to ice in his veins. He couldn't move, couldn't speak. All he could do was watch as the ghost approached. She was close enough now that he could see the details on her face. Her skin was stretched tight over her cheekbones, and he could see the outlines of the teeth that lay beneath her dry lips. They chattered like ice on a winter's day. Then, as quickly as she had appeared, she vanished. The only evidence of her presence was the lingering chill in the air. The room was silent except for the sound of his own ragged breathing. He needed to get out of there, but his legs felt like lead. He tried to move, but his body wouldn't obey. He was paralyzed by fear, trapped in a room with a ghost who wanted something from him. What did she want? Why had she shown herself to him? Questions raced through his mind, but there were no answers. All he knew was that he wasn't alone. Something else was in the room with him. Something cold and evil that was watching him, waiting for him to make a move. If he stayed still, if he didn't make a sound, maybe it would go away. But the silence stretched on, minute after minute, hour after hour, and he knew he couldn't stay there forever. Eventually, he would have to leave, and when he did, he knew the ghost would be waiting for him in the darkness.